Welcome back to Views with Hughes, your gender-free news. This is Jerome Hughes. Now, let's go ahead and get into it. So, we got a Rings of Power update. So, today we're going to talk about some new developments coming out of the upcoming Rings of Power Season 2. Showrunner of Rings of Power Season 2, J.D. Payne, and some other cast members have been spilling the beans on what we can expect. And if you're a true fan of J.R.R. Tolkien's work, you're probably not going to like what you hear. Now, showrunner of Rings of Power Season 2, J.D. Payne, has revealed that Rings of Power Season 2 will depict Sauron, believing he is the hero in his own story. Let that sink in for a minute. They're not just showing Sauron as a villain, but as someone who sees himself as the hero. And this kind of moral relativism is not only a departure from J.R.R. Tolkien's original vision, but a dangerous rewriting of one of the greatest works of the fantasy ever created. Now, in an interview with, Entertainment Weekly, of course, Cynthia Adire Robinson, who plays Queen Regent Muriel, confirmed that Rings of Power Season 2 is about the villains. She said, if Rings of Power Season 1 was like the hero's journey, Rings of Power Season 2 is the villain's journey. So they're flipping the script on us with Rings of Power Season 2. Turning what should be a story of good versus evil into something that blurs the lines and muddies the waters, okay? Now, Charlie Vickers, who plays Sauron in Rings of Power Season 2, chimed in on how this will play out, and he said, from a storytelling perspective, instead of trying to guess who Sauron is, we're now inside Sauron's mind. And he added that in Rings of Power Season 2, the camera will follow Sauron through his private thoughts and the audience will be in on it. Now, this isn't just about exploring the character. It's about trying to make the audience empathize with someone who is, by J.R.R. Tolkien's own words, the embodiment of evil. Okay, and this right here is quite foolish if you ask me. Now, Payne then explained how Rings of Power Season 2 would depict Sauron in Sauron's mind. He says he's the hero of his own story. He goes on to say that Sauron in Rings of Power Season 2 is trying to heal and rehabilitate Middle Earth, but the only problem is that other people keep getting in his way. Now, this is a gross misrepresentation of Sauron's character and the betrayal of J.R.R. Tolkien's original intent. Now, J.R.R. Tolkien made it clear himself who Sauron is and what is his motivations in the Silmarillion. Now, Sauron was once being a Valinor perverted to the service of Morgoth, the first Dark Lord, and Sauron starts with what might be seen as good intentions, wanting to reorganize and rehabilitate Middle Earth, but he quickly becomes consumed by a lust of power and hatred, and Sauron didn't see himself as a hero. He was a deceiver, a manipulator, someone who wanted to dominate all life on Middle Earth, and this will not be in Rings of Power Season 2 Sauron. Not at all. This will not be that Sauron, but in the Silmarillion, J.R.R. Tolkien wrote when Thangordrum was broken and Morgoth overthrown, Sauron put on his fair hue again and did obeisance to Yahweh, the herald of Manwë, and abjured all his evil deeds. And some hold that this was not at first falsely done, but Sauron in truth repented only out of fear, being dismayed by the fall of Morgoth and in the wrath of the lords of the West. Now, this came at this what made the first age of the Silmarillion come to a close in stuff Middle Earth, but when Sauron was commanded to actually return back to Aman to face judgment, he refused, and Sauron was just ashamed and unwilling to return to humiliation. Now, Sauron did hide himself in Middle Earth and fell back into evil. J.R.R. Tolkien detailed how Sauron's pride grew and Sauron began to hate the elves and fear the men of Numenor, and this is a far cry from someone who believes he is a hero, okay? But it doesn't even stop there. Of course. See, Entertainment Weekly's Kristen Holub has also revealed that in Rings of Power Season 2, Sauron's entire purpose of working with the elves has been changed from J.R.R. Tolkien's original writing in Rings of Power Season 2. Instead of hating the elves and trying to deceive them to bring them under his control, Sauron is now seeking their aid because Adhere kicked him out and leaving him temporarily homeless. Now, this is not only a ridiculous change for Rings of Power Season 2, but also an insult to J.R.R. Tolkien's carefully crafted world and characters. Now, Holloway also adds that in Rings of Power Season 2, Sauron has tried to make new friends among the elves and that he still needs to help enact his master plan. And this leads to a twisted version of the relationship between Sauron and Celebrimbor. Actor James Edwards, who plays Celebrimbor, says Celebrimbor has the ability and Sauron has the vision. He describes the relationship in Rings of Power Season 2 as give and take, where they both need each other badly. Now, in the Unfinished Tales, J.R.R. Tolkien made it clear that Sauron was manipulating Celebrimbor. He wrote that Sauron used all his arts upon Celebrimbor and his fellow smiths, and Sauron wasn't working with Celebrimbor as an equal partner. Sauron was using him, deceiving him to achieve his own dark ends. All right. Now, the fact that Payne and the rest of the team behind Rings of Power Season 2 are changing this relationship into something more symbiotic is a complete betrayal of J.R.R. Tolkien's work. And they're not just telling a different story in Rings of Power Season 2, they're actually rewriting the very nature of these characters and their relationships for the wicked ideology in Rings of Power Season 2. So basically, when it comes to Rings of Power Season 2, what are we to make of all of this? You know, it's clear that the creators of the Rings of Power Season 2 don't respect J.R.R. Tolkien's original vision. The creators of Rings of Power Season 2 and Amazon are basically more interested in pushing their own woke narrative, one that blurs the lines between good and evil and tries to make us sympathize with the character that should be beyond redemption, focusing more on pushing the woke agenda. Now, honestly, Rings of Power Season 2 isn't just bad storytelling, but it's also a dangerous distortion of one of the most beloved works of the literature in the world. And J.R.R. Tolkien's world is one of clear moral boundaries where, you know, good and evil are distinct, and the struggle between them is the essence of the story. Now, by turning Sauron into a character who sees himself as the hero, they're undermining, you know, everything that makes the Lord of the Rings great. All right. And let's be honest here. You know, as fans of J.R.R. Tolkien's work, we actually have a duty to actually speak out against these changes. You know, we need to show the creators that of Rings of Power Season 2 that they must respect the source material and stay true to the characters and the world that J.R.R. Tolkien created. But then again, this show is just based on the appendages of the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Rings. So Rings of Power Season 2 shouldn't even exist. As a matter of fact, Rings of Power at all shouldn't exist, period. But you know what? In Rings of Power Season 2, the changes being made to Sauron's character in Rings of Power of Season 2 are not just unnecessary, you know, they're harmful. They distort J.R.R. Tolkien's original vision and undermine the moral clarity that is at the heart of this work. And we must hold the creators accountable and demand that they respect the legacy of one of the greatest storytellers of all time. Okay. And the fact of the matter is, we're not going to see that happening. There's not going to be any changes made except for to the story, but the creators aren't going to change their agenda because of the fact that they need a lot of this stuff to go ahead and fill in. Just go ahead and get 5 seasons out of it. So this is just a part of their, you know, dark work and all of that. And the fans are not pleased. So what do you think of this take on Rings of Power Season 2? You know, is it just another example of Hollywood trying to rewrite classic stories to fit their own woke agenda? Or is there something more at play here? Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Also, be sure to include any additional thoughts you may have this particular topic. If you enjoyed what I shared in this video, go ahead and smash the like button and share far and wide across social media. And if you haven't done so already and you enjoyed all the content that I put out there, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Click the bell notification so that way you're notified of future uploads and updates. Till then, peace.